Hi everyone, I'm Nicholas Tutora. Welcome to Tutora Time. Spin the big wheel of Dr. Fauci. Yes, ask Dr. Fauci a question and you won't get the same answer twice.
People wearing masks now is just not relevant. You don't need to be walking around with a mask right now. Masks, quite frankly, are more important for people who are infected to prevent them from infecting someone else.
Yes, ask Dr. Fauci a question and you won't get the same answer twice.
Let me just state for the record that masks are not theater.
When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is.
Masks are protective, and we
have
ask
immunity, they're theater. If you already have immunity, you're wearing a mask to give comfort to others. You're not wearing a mask because of any sign.
I totally disagree with you.
Wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better. The drugstore masks that sell have a lot of loopholes in them that let the virus through.
Okay, so wash your hands repeatedly. You don't need a mask, and just avoid crowded places where everyone's sneezing. Okay.
You know, the average age of life expectancy in the United States is 78, and the average age of death due to COVID is 78. Now, I'm not making light of it. My mother did pass away from COVID. However, she was 88 years old, living in a nursing home in New York City, and she contracted COVID shortly after Andrew Cuomo let COVID-positive patients into that nursing home. But elderly and frail people tend to get sick. That's the nature of life. I don't want to break any shocking news to anyone out there who might not be aware of this, but as you get older, there's a larger chance that you're going to get sick and die. Now, try not to get too upset about that. I know you've probably never heard about that. I'm assuming you thought you were going to live forever, but it doesn't really work that way. If you look, there's not many people celebrating their 110th, 120th, 130th birthday.
What specific studies do you cite to argue that the public should be wearing masks well into 2022?
I'm not sure I understand the connection.
You're telling everybody to wear a mask, whether they've had an infection or a vaccine. What I'm saying is they have immunity, and everybody agrees they have immunity. What studies do you have that people that have had the vaccine or have had the infection are spreading the infection? If we're not spreading the infection, isn't it just theater?
No, it's
not.
not.
The vaccine and you're wearing 2 masks. Isn't that theater?
No, that's not. Here we go again with the theater. Let's get down to the facts.
Rand Paul points out there are absolutely 0 studies showing that if you've had COVID or the vaccine that you run the possibility of being reinfected.
There is no evidence that there are significant reinfections after vaccine. In fact, I don't think we have a hospitalization in the United States after the 2-week period after the second vaccination. We don't have a death in the United States. Policy based on conjecture.
No,
it
isn't based on conjecture.
Variants, so you want people to wear masks for another couple years.
No.
You've been vaccinated and you parade around in 2 masks for show.
And should people be hoping for a vaccine to help solve this problem?
I believe we're going to have a vaccine. It will not be for at least a year or more until we know a vaccine works, even though this is the quickest we've ever done of going from identifying the virus to going into a clinical trial in human. But still, to have a vaccine practically available for people should be well over a year and a half, at least at the earliest.
You're defying everything we know about immunity by telling people to wear masks who've been vaccinated.
No. Let me just state for the record that masks are not theater.
Wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is.
But Dr. Fauci is out there with his double masking and his vaccine, saying that we have to be very careful of variants. Keep those masks on, folks, because there might be a variant. Dr. Fauci even pointed to some variants that are happening in South Africa.
You're not hearing what I'm saying about variants.
What proof is there that there are significant reinfections with hospitalizations and death from the variants? None in our country. 0.
Well, because we don't have a prevalent of a variant yet. That's a good reason for a mask.
So I think we should definitely mask up here in the United States because you never know how a South African virus might come here. Now, we know COVID is extremely serious, as only 99.5% of the people who get it will recover. And we know that about 90% of the people who have it show absolutely no symptoms. But that doesn't stop the political theater from continuing. People say wear a mask to save your neighbor or because you care about your neighbor. I say don't wear a mask if you care about your neighbor. If you care about your neighbor's freedom, you'll walk around like a free person. It's seriously scary what's going on out there, folks. It's only a year, and people have been convinced that if they take off their masks, their immune system all of a sudden doesn't work, and they're magically going to get sick and die. All these people walking around with masks, it's like a freak show out there. And folks, just because somebody is a doctor doesn't mean that they are honest. I'm not saying Fauci is on the level of this person, but Joseph Mengele was a doctor for the Nazis who conducted large scientific experiments on prisoners of war, Jews in concentration camps. And unfortunately, the SOB was never brought to justice. He escaped to South America. So folks, I trust you. I think you're reasonably intelligent enough to know whether you should wear a mask or not wear a mask. I've gone to a lot of political rallies over the last year. Nobody's wearing a mask and nobody's getting sick. I've gone to a lot of political meetings. People aren't wearing masks. Nobody's getting sick. In my day-to-day events, I don't wear a mask. I haven't gotten sick. Maybe I had COVID. I don't know. I might have, but you don't even know it. This whole mask and COVID thing, it's ridiculous. You have to be tested to know whether you even have the virus or not. You have no symptoms, everything is fine, but somebody tells you you have a virus. If you don't have something, you can't pass it along to somebody else. Fauci has been vaccinated, but he's there wearing a double mask. Why? Who could possibly get sick? Does he understand the meaning of what a vaccine actually does? Why get a vaccine if you're going to wear a mask? And you know, the other thing that is extremely disturbing to me is young people. Where are you? Young people used to rage against the machine. Now they're raging for the machine. Young people traditionally want to throw off the chains of the establishment. Now they're rushing to carry out Dr. Fauci's guidelines and to declare each other war criminals for not wearing a mask. And one more thing, folks. Are you naive enough to believe that everybody suddenly became 100% honest? Do you really think that these people's motives are pure? Nobody's making money off the vaccines. Nobody's making money off selling masks or all this protective equipment that they want you to have. You don't think that people would manipulate you to try to achieve their political ends? Now, I'm not saying this is what happened, but if you ever wanted to control an entire population, you would come up with something that puts them all in fear and something they all must obey, kind of like COVID restrictions. Folks, the American Revolution was fought at the height of a smallpox epidemic, but the founders did not put a pandemic clause into the Constitution that says when there's a pandemic, your rights are suspended. And if you can suspend the rights of the people in an emergency, the government will simply always declare an emergency. People, you're not that naive. You're not that childish. Stand up to this insanity. Florida, the Sunshine State, is about to blow the lid off the entire mask mandate story. They're opened up. People are out there dancing. People are having a good time. And we'll see that the cases won't go up. This is why the left does not want the states to lift the mandates, because they don't want their hypocrisy exposed. Live free or die, people. That's our famous American motto. You're an American. You're a free person. You don't need Dr. Fauci. And you know what? Here's a phrase that's really subversive. A second opinion. Remember, you go to the doctor and you get a diagnosis that you're not really comfortable with. Remember, a second opinion. There are plenty of doctors who will tell you that this entire thing is nonsense and the masks are an absurdity. It's a pure absurdity to think that you can control virus like this. Yes, whether you believe in God or just the evolution of the universe, either way, humans were created with an immune system. And believe me, your immune system did not magically fail in 2020 during Trump's re-election year, and it did not fail while the Democrats are ready to do their great reset. They need a reason to shut down society, and COVID provides them exactly that. Think for yourself. I'm Nicholas Tutora, and I'll join you again soon on Tutora Time.